I've lost some of the best employees that I've had. I've lost co-founders, and I've lost dream jobs because I completely lost sight of this.
We are going to actually start this conference with a talk from John about great developers do sales, marketing, and support. And John is a great person with whom I will reach out to talk if I will want to do more with my business, with my projects, with my things, and we actually exchange some good ideas about this. So I will invite John now to talk about this. First, we invite him with a round of applause.
Good morning. It is absolutely fantastic to be here. This really is my favorite Ruby conference. So the little tear in my eye as I heard that news from Adrian. It's the first time this morning, but it's an absolute honor to be here. And thank you so much to the whole team that makes this happen, the sponsors that make it happen, and all of you for buying tickets to make it happen, because I love being here with all you awesome people. So I'm going to talk to you today about how great developers do sales, marketing, and even support. And this isn't just about business. I'm going to try and show you how it's important to use all these things. And I think you'll have something to take away from these things if you run a community, if you run a business, or if you're trying to advance your careers in some other way. A little bit of a winding history of me and maybe what qualifies me to give you some level of talk on this topic. So I've had jobs, I've run communities, and I've run some businesses. Those jobs have been from startups to big public companies, and being the CTO of a 50-person marketing company. On the community front, I've run meetups. I know how hard organizing a conference like this is. I only managed 2 years, so it's brilliant that this has gone for free. And I'm best known in the UK for running a co-working space that's coming up on being 18 years old. On the business front, I've done freelancing, I've run a SaaS, and more recently I work a lot with founders that are in marketing and sales to help them build their first SaaS, and also some technical founders to introduce some marketing and sales to their businesses. So since it's about marketing and sales, I've got to do the dirty thing and talk about money a little bit. And I also apologize for using this symbol in Europe, but I have some nice round numbers that fit quite nicely with US dollars. And so in terms of jobs and hiring, the range that I've operated in has been the sort of 20K a year through to 200K a year as the outliers. And then consulting, again, big outlier at $200 an hour. That was a particularly great 2 days. And on the business front, I've helped businesses go from 4 businesses so far go from 0 to 1 million ARR, and did a back of the envelope calculation, and those businesses have got to about a total revenue of about $50 million US. And what I'm particularly proud about is it used very little capital to get there. So this is most of the money that they used to get there was their own money from previous businesses. And finally, I passed a nice milestone, and this is revenue, not profit. It's over 20 years, but I've realized I've managed to actually make directly from my own businesses about 5 million with some external help, mostly to get a co-working space through COVID, because the revenue looks like that. And yeah, that was painful, and it needed some assistance. And so money is great, making a difference is even greater, and that's what really kept that co-working space together, wanting to keep those people together for the long term. And I believe that, again, the things I'm going to share today are going to help communities, businesses, and your careers make that bigger difference, as well as getting some money to do it with. So I'm most happy when I'm writing code, especially beautiful Ruby code. I think I'm a decent developer, kind of okay developer, but developers don't really ask me very many technical questions. They tend to ask me these questions. So how do I get more followers? How do I get visitors to my website to buy? How do I grow revenue? How do I make more money? So I'm not sure what that tells you about my technical skills, but I'm looking forward to learning the technical stuff from all of you to level up. And so the answer to all of those questions is always, it depends, and you should be very wary of anyone that has an easy solution to any of those answers. But I have seen some themes, and assuming that you're all pretty good, awesome developers, and you can actually ship stuff, then most of the problems end up being marketing, sales, or support problems, in my experience. You get them great, you can turn good into great. So let's get some definitions. What is marketing? So really helpfully, as I was writing this talk, Jason Fried dropped into my inbox with this definition saying, at its best, marketing is the transfer of enthusiasm. And I really liked that and thought, let's build on that. He was writing about that in the context of DHH's enthusiasm around Omaki, which I really agreed with, and I'm definitely super enthusiastic about Linux on the desktop. But what then is sales? So sales, I believe, is the acceleration of action. And again, in the case of Omaki, I believe that DHH kind of did a bit of a sales role when this dropped into my inbox in July, where he actually gave me something that I could do, like maybe buy a mini PC, and it really, spurred me almost to action. I almost clicked. Wasn't quite there, but I could see many people probably did buy those B-Links, baby. And so on to support. What's support? So I believe support is the preservation of confidence. And again, the 37 Signals guys do this very well. Again, dropping into my inbox. These are emails. I know a lot of people think they're most active with all their followers, but these are emails that I got into my inbox. And a month later, very consistently, DHH is telling us about version 2, and I'm building even more confidence that this is something that I'll be able to use. But how do we do these things in practice? So lots of hacks and tactics all over the place, and people saying that you should do this and that on social media. But I think what most often people get wrong, in my experience, is failing at the very fundamentals of each of these three things. And so in marketing, I would say the most fundamental thing is to remind people or tell people that you exist, and do it consistently. Keep on doing it. There might be some gaps where you go on holiday or whatever, but you come back and you're still there. And the easiest way to do it is simply to send an email. On the sales front, it's all about helping people to take action. And one way to help people is simply to ask. And again, sending an email. There's a bit of a theme here, I'm afraid. I know how much we all love email. On the support front, it's about responding to people quickly. Quickly does not need to be 15 minutes. It depends on the situation, but 2 days is a sort of good things to aim for, in my experience. Recently, I was trying to hire some builders to do some work on my house. I had 3 different builders that I was talking to, and 2 of them just completely stopped responding to email when I sent them a list of questions. The third builder, obviously these questions are pretty heavy for them, and they're not email people either, but they replied and said, thank you, I've got this, can't deal with it right now, but I'll reply to you in a week's time. And that made me feel so good that they'd actually read the email, they were actually going to come back to me, and they didn't ghost me. And actually they then exceeded those expectations, and it only took them 2 days more to come back to me and tell me the answers to the questions I'd asked. So, sending an email, send more email, send better emails. We want to get this loop going where you're transferring enthusiasm, accelerating action, and preserving people's confidence. And of course, those are the basics. How can we multiply the effect of these things? So let's look at multiplying marketing. So multiplying marketing is really about being remarkable. It's not really an easy thing to do. You're all remarkable to me. You're coming to this awesome conference. You're using Ruby. So you'll stand out to me in this moment. But there's so much noise. Most of us do not have hundreds of thousands of followers. Most of us do not have the name recognition that when your email drops into their inbox, they're going, oh my God, famous person. I'm going to pay attention. And they're remarkable already because of what they've done in the past. And so here's an idea for an email. I'm getting into a bit of a hack here, but here's an email that's guaranteed to get opened, but it might not be the right way to do it. I don't know, how do you feel if you got an email like this? I'm quite scared and concerned about what might be on the next slide. When did they take this photo? Ooh, right. So this was my hotel room last night when I was procrastinating from doing the report and the presentation, and I wanted to show off this lovely swag that I've got that I can hopefully share with you later. That's really fun, and you can do weird shit like this with it. And the inspiration though really was Michael, and I wanted to try and recreate this, and I didn't manage it. So that's my excuse. I'm sorry. Here's a better email, guaranteed to get you a reply, certainly from me, maybe from the other speakers here, simply to say, I saw your talk at Friendly.rb, and like, I'm there, you've got my attention, and I'm super stoked to hear what you have to say. I actually did this back in 2007, and I got a pretty short email back from Steve Ballmer, the CEO of Microsoft, but it felt pretty cool at the time. And I applied it a couple of times in 2008 and 2009, and it essentially resulted by me being a little bit remarkable with some emails. I got 2 paid flights to San Francisco and 2 interviews. Unfortunately, I failed both of those interviews at respected organizations that you would know well. I'll tell you the story in the bar if you're interested, because I failed entirely actually selling myself once I was in the room. I was like a deer in headlights with the founders of these amazing organizations. So how can we multiply sales? Now, this is the really, really hard one. Sales gets so much easier when you have good positioning. It really accelerates action. So here's a story about a business I was working with a few years ago. But first, a definition of jobs to be done. How many people are familiar with jobs to be done? Come across before? Okay, cool. This is a very, very short version of it, so I apologize. But the idea of jobs to be done theory is that people make a purchase because they have a job to be done. They want whatever they buy to help them do that job or to do that job for them. And when someone's making a decision and ultimately becoming a buyer, they go through these steps, so the theory goes. And so they have a first thought, which is about whether or not they actually have a problem. So it might be that they need a toothbrush because they have bad breath, or someone points this out to them. A trivial example, I'll give a far better one in a moment. And it's only at the point after they realize they have a problem and they need this thing that they'll then maybe switch into the mode of looking for it. And eventually they get to the point of saying, okay, I have a range of different options, going to make a decision between them, make a purchase, then ultimately consume them and hopefully be very satisfied. 10 years ago, I was working for a team in a marketing agency, specifically in public relations, and they realized a really big opportunity that they managed to make work in their organization, which was to fuse the worlds of SEO and public relations. And it really leveled up the public relations they did by really understanding SEO. And they decided they wanted to help other public relations folk do this, and so they systemized their approach to doing public relations and SEO into a CRM that was like the blueprint of their workflow. They went out and they sold it, or tried to. And they did actually make some money because they had such a good network. They were able to go and meet the founders and directors of other PR agencies, and they were like, "Yeah, this is great. We really need to level up. We want some of that money that all the SEO companies are getting." And very quickly, because they were fantastic sales and marketers, they got all the way through to getting those founders and directors to buy it. But unfortunately, it came to the point where we wanted to see them actually using it. And while we had hundreds of pounds, if not thousands of pounds of revenue coming in, none of the people that had bought this software were using it. And the reason they weren't using it is because their teams that they're asking to use it were super busy. They're trying to manage relationships with influencers and journalists. They've got these big spreadsheets that are color-coded. There's like no way to do an import process or switch from this approach. They just could not make the switch. So how do we turn something like that looks like it's just a failure and hit the wall into something that can become a highly profitable multi-million-dollar SaaS? 10 years later, this business is one of the best I've ever worked with. A team of 10, and they're doing absolutely amazing things. So what we did is we had conversations. We decided we shouldn't talk to the directors of the business. We needed to talk to the people on the ground that we wanted to actually use the tool. And what was really interesting hearing from them was that they didn't think of it as this transformational CRM. What they were told from the directors, like, look at these amazing reports that we can show our clients if you use this tool. And they were saying, yeah, that's great, but can't go all the way through it. And so we went away And after really observing this experience that they were having, and decided, let's make it even more convincing that people should use our tool. And we hacked together in a couple of days an MVP that just sliced out the reporting function of the CRM. And we were able to put that in front of people. All they had to do was drop in a list of URLs of the coverage after they'd won it. So it's just something they did at the very end of the process. And they run through this process in literally minutes. And so it was repositioned from being a CRM for agencies and agency owners to being faster reporting for individual public relations professionals. And that switch of positioning just made everything so much easier. So here's Gary, the CEO, still the CEO of Coverage Book, and he was able to put together amazing ads like this and emails, which really just captured the pain that the people in the industry were feeling. And I've never seen tweets that would organically do as well as this. This was actually we did this periodically. So this is just about 3 years after we started using this mechanism. It was still getting loads and loads of likes and coverage, and most importantly, sign-ups. Yeah, there was this situation of enthusiasm waning, and they could really turn it around, and it really appealed to people. So, moving on to support. How can we multiply it? So it's easy to be reactionary, replying to those emails as they come in, or dealing with problems that your colleagues bring to you. But the thing that I think is that you really need to be more actively doing is checking the blind spots, thinking about the things that aren't coming to you directly. And if you're actively looking out for potential problems, you're going to preserve that confidence. I like to think about this on 3 different levels. So I've got the functional level, the system level, and the human level. And I've made big mistakes missing out that third one in the past. So the functional level, one question you can ask is, how are people actually using the thing that you're building? And that can be a thought experiment or asking them directly. One thing in another business that I worked with that had quite a heavy support function, because it's a very complex piece of software solving a very complicated problem, was to get developers to shadow the support team, because it was too complicated really for the developers to be able to provide support in this situation, but they could shadow them. And this was back in before the pandemic, but this is already a 100% remote company. So it was a bit of a big deal to do this, but we actually got the developers to go around the houses of the support team, sit next to them for a day. They had a great time getting to know each other, but they also got to see the problems that the internal tooling was causing the support team, and that really, fixing those problems made the biggest difference, but they could also see the problems that were coming in from customers. So I highly recommend this approach. Next, at the system level, trying to understand more broadly, what is it that is driving people to do the things they're doing. So here's an example from the company I'm working with most at the moment, which is a URL box. It's a screenshot API. Whenever I talk to people at conferences like this, it's like, how is that a business? I can do that in an afternoon. You would be surprised. This business is doing very well, and we've got a small team now. And one of the things the developers have worked out in the last few weeks is that we've historically spent quite a lot of money on freelancers and agencies to build out the content that we have, helpful content to people when they have very specific situations that are causing problems for their website screenshot generation. And the more of those posts we have out there, the more people find us in that time of need. They realize that we've been paying between $500 and $1,500 for these blog posts to be written, because the founder is too busy to just keeping things going. And so they've put all this together and realized if they produce 10 or 20 blog posts on top of their work, and it comes around to their pay review or whether or not they're going to get a promotion, they can say they've literally created $20,000 of value in the year as a minimum, and maybe more than that if they can show that some customers signed up because they shared the problem they were solving internally anyway and turned their notes into an article. Finally, checking those human blind spots. Really need to be asking yourself how you're making your colleagues, your customers, everyone that you're working with feel. And as I said before, it's very easy to feel like you totally get it with the first 2 things. You understand the business that you're working in. You feel like you can put all this energy in it and make it go super fast and brilliant. But if you neglect to think about how people are feeling, in my case, I've lost some of the best employees that I've had. I've lost co-founders and I've lost dream jobs because I completely lost sight of this and just didn't realize all the warning signs, checking those blind spots. So please don't do that. Be curious about these things in all the different ways that you are working. Now, all of that is still quite challenging to do in practice. And ultimately, what you need, the skill that you need to learn, and I'm hopeful that you'll go away and try and learn more about after this conference, is how to talk so that people can talk. Because you can't ask directly some of these questions. We couldn't ask those people in those public relations teams what they could build, but if we had the right way of talking to people, we could learn more. I don't have time to teach you all about that, but this book, Michelle's book, who sadly can't be here today, is like the one book that you should all buy after this conference and put into action. I was reading, she's just updated the latest edition, so it's all like completely up to date with modern techniques for doing this sort of thing. And as I was reading it, I looked towards the back of the book, and I realized every book, she has lots of books referenced. I have lots of books that I'd like to reference. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here with lots of these ideas. But I realized it's not useful to give you this huge, great big list, especially as actually every single one of the sources that I would have referenced is in this book. Anyway, it's really just perfect, and it's written for developers, and it's wonderful. If you want the list anyway, you can email me, and you know what the subject line should be. Please go away, practice marketing, sales, and support. Be remarkable, get positioning right, check your blind spots, be a great developer, and send more email. And somehow I've deleted my email address from this slide, which is getting sales completely wrong, but it's jot@hey.com, and looking forward to hearing from you. And within 48 hours, I'll give you a list of those sources. And if you tell me a little bit more about your situation, where you're trying to apply this, I'll tell you the one book to maybe read after Deploy Empathy. Have a fantastic conference. I'm really looking forward to meeting you all.